how I met my Japanese husband. Do you want to know? It's my birthday. We met in Singapore. Most of my girlfriends met their husband abroad, not in Japan. At that time, I worked and lived for 9 years in Singapore, and I loved it. I totally loved it. I worked in marketing and PR for an American company. The target audience were expats. And I had to attend several business networking events during the week, and on weekends I had to attend events, business networking, coffee morning, club events, whatever comes up, I had to be there, or organize my own coffee mornings, support schools and clubs, attend golf tournaments, or sponsor golf tournaments with whatever items we have. And the great thing about this was, it was basically every day you met people, new people, old people, and it was fun. I loved it. I totally loved it. Also, I had to attend golf tournaments. For example, this company sponsored at that time the Asian Senior Masters. So I had to play golf with customers and maybe a pro. But I'm German and my sport was judo, so I didn't know anything about golf. My former boss asked me, do you play golf? And I said yes, but actually I never played golf before. So from that day onwards, I started golf lessons and played moderately okay. So therefore, every weekend I went to the golf course. Usually I would go to the Sembawang driving range, but on 7th of January 2006, I went to Tanglin. It was close to Holland Village, and it was a 9-hole golf course. I wanted to play because something came up and I needed to practice. I arrived maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not so sure about the time anymore, but usually I would go early so I could be early back home. In Singapore, you have a temperature between 24 and 32 degrees and very humid, like 80 or 90%, and it's really hot, super hot. And you have 2 seasons, spring and the rainy season. When I arrived at the clubhouse, Japanese just exit a taxi. Of course, at that time I didn't know he was Japanese, and in Singapore it was very hard to determine if somebody's Chinese or Japanese or Korean. This was difficult. When he exited taxi, I just noticed that someone exited with a bright red t-shirt, and he was quite athletic build. He wore also sunglasses, which was it unusual? I don't know. Can't remember. At the reception, I was standing behind him, and he smelled like he was freshly showered. In Singapore, as everywhere in Singapore, inside the clubhouse, everything was air conditioned. As soon as you step outside, the humid, hot weather of Singapore will hit you and you will sweat a lot. That's why you immediately notice if somebody is freshly showered. We both were alone. Usually you have one partner or 2 partners or 3 partners with you for a flight. Behind me was a group of 4 women. And they were very chatty at that morning, and I would describe Singaporeans as very chatty, yes. When it was my turn at the receptionist asked me if I want to play with somebody else. And I said no at that time. Last time when I accepted a suggestion from a receptionist, I ended up with a male masseuse. Shortly after I went to the TeeOff, I had a happy bag with me, and since I was a beginner, I didn't really realize that I should bring only my putter and my 7-iron or maybe my driver. I just brought my whole bag. So the guy before me was this Japanese. He was a little bit smarter. He had also a golf bag with him, but not all clubs, and he had a golf carrier with him. And it was really good. And then the guy beside me, I think he belonged to the golf course, he said, "Oh, please tee off right now. We are short in time." So this is how we ended up playing together. We introduced each other. I introduced myself as Mani. Obviously it was not my name. Of course he said his correct name, Takano. I had not the best experience with guys in Singapore. Obviously the market was small for Caucasian guys, and most of them were married. They came with their wives, or the other part were all attracted to Asian women. The few guys I met, either they were married or something was off. So I started to really use different names. And it was quite common, or it is quite common in Singapore, to change your Chinese name to a Western name. And a friend of mine using 3 different names. So I didn't feel really bad about it. It was just my name for that day. It was kind of role play, I would say. Another advantage of this role play was if someone asked you a question, and usually in Singapore they were most of the time very direct and or really out of place. They shouldn't ask this question. For example, and they would ask this in the first 5 minutes. How much do you earn? How old are you? Do you take drugs? It is seriously, it is not acceptable. It was weird. This Japanese guy, he didn't talk, at least not until the 3rd hole. And then he was walking behind me, and then suddenly he asked me how old I am. So again, I told him I was 30. I was 39 at that time. Then he asked me if I was married. I said no. So I think at hole 6, he said, "Oh, Germany." And I said, "Japan." Then he said, "I like beer. How to order a beer in German? Können Sie mir bitte ein Bier aufs Zimmer bringen?" So my bag was very heavy and I hated it. And I hated it that he didn't ask if he could help me, but no. So I thought, okay, well, I will never see this guy again. I just asked him. I said, "Do you know in Germany the guys carrying the bags for the women?" And he carried my bag. The 2 bags at that time, after that. I was quite surprised that he just took my word that it was true. And there was no question. He was maybe 45 years old or something like this. And there was no sarcasm, no jokes. So I got interested in him. I thought, who is this guy who is apparently not flirting or don't know what is flirting? And I was thinking, what do I know about Japan? I mean, kamikaze, samurais, geishas. Oh, and Ikebana, the opposite from Kama Sutra. No, but at that time I really thought that. No, I really didn't know anything about Japan. I came to Singapore without really wanting to come to Singapore. And I didn't know anything about Singapore or Asia. My dreamland was at that time the United States. I think the rest of the game was very quiet. We didn't talk much. And at the end of the game I really lost interest in him because there was no conversation, no flirting, no nothing. I wanted to go home, so I just said, "Oh, I will take a shower and change." He went up into the restaurant. There was, on top of the showers and changing room, there was a restaurant. It was, I don't know, even if we started early, I think it was already 10 o'clock or something. I had the feeling the sun was high up at that time. After my shower I went up. I had no makeup on, my hair were wet, I didn't use the hair dryer. I wanted to sit down for 2-3 minutes and then leave. He drank a beer. I didn't like to drink before 12 o'clock or 5 p.m. In that moment I realized Japanese drink, whereby Chinese don't, at least not the people I was around at that time. Usually Chinese wouldn't drink so much, and he was different. They started talking and I told him what I'm doing in Singapore, and he told me what he was doing. He was a civil engineer and working for a big Japanese company. I think at that time they built an MRT line. Yeah, and then suddenly he told me he was married before, and basically he loved to be married and he's missing his partner a lot. And it sounds so dry now when I say this, but it was that moment where I realized I like this guy. Because I was married before and it was really painful to separate and to stop the relationship. I love to be married. I loved my ex-husband very much, and I couldn't say one bad word about him. The same was for him. He wouldn't say one bad word about his ex-wife. And I thought, this is so sweet, because the opposite I have experienced very often, but not this one, and actually never before. So I thought, oh, he's thinking the same as me. I really love that. After that, I thought, wow, I missed my chance to meet a really great guy. I gave the wrong name, wrong age, and I didn't tell him that I was actually married before. So I thought, okay, it's time to go home. I stand up and said goodbye to him, but he said, oh, let me walk you to the taxi stand, which was not even 5 meters. Yeah, and at the taxi stand he asked me, do you want to go out tonight and have dinner together? It was Saturday, and he had time on Saturday, so he was indeed free. He was not dating anyone. I was also free. I was not dating anyone at that time. I thought, wow, why not? And I will tell him at dinner what's going on. So we met at Takashimaya at that time, I think at 7 p.m. in the evening or 8. My kids went to bed at 7, so I could meet him at 8. Yeah, so most probably we met around that time. I went the first time to a Japanese restaurant what didn't serve only sushi. So it was quite fun. And that's the story of how I met my Japanese husband.